Unpredictability.
But you feel like having that team, having a conceptual vision, having a creative team on the same page fosters an environment for those unpredictable,
correct,
improvisational, magic moments.
The key to everything is you can't do everything. You need people. At the end of the day, you need people. So Vicky and my vision, it's big. A lot of people will say, man, that's almost impossible. It's a very big vision. But it's the people that you put in place to implement and see the vision that you're going with. Can you help them? How can you help them thrive to be able to do what needs to be done?
And we back, and let's get it. We here live at Core Cultural Studios in Taipei, Taiwan. Beyond the Hustle. Make sure you smash that subscription button, comment, like, subscribe, of course, do all that good stuff. Your support means everything. Obviously, Beyond the Hustle by Madam Vision is a kind of a new concept based on a lot of old world ideas, but we really want to push the threshold of amazing stories from amazing people who really cultivate abundance, know how to work smart, not hard, and overall create new ways of success and well-being in their life. And today I have a very amazing guest, good friend of mine that I recently have met, but we just kicked it off crazy.
Absolutely.
Give it up for Manny Granado here on the show. How you doing, Manny? What's good?
Looking forward to it, Ev.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. And Manny Granado is, I guess I would describe you as a storyteller with the power for really getting those stories to massive amounts of audiences. You're a producer. Mm-hmm. You have your own production company here in Taiwan.
Correct.
You grew up in LA. I'm sure we'll get into it a little more, but talk to me about yourself. What are you doing here in Taiwan?
Oh, absolutely. No, we basically grown up all over the place, LA, Miami, DC. But we're out here actually, my wife and I, during COVID 2021, where everything shut down. We came up with the concept. We've been in the industry. My wife, 28 years, Vicky.
Right.
Me, been in the industry for about 10, 15. And when everything shut down, we were watching all the Asian dramas in the U.S. and looking at the markets and how the U.S. was reacting to it. So we came up with the concept of high school, college dramas, college shows. We really thought that Taiwan would be the place that we can do this.
Wow.
So in essence, we came up with a few concepts. I pitched it to some friends of mine, and they funded the first pilot. We came out here to Taiwan. We pitched it for Korea, China, and here. Vicky's from Taiwan.
Nice.
In COVID, it was easy to get out here.
Nice.
So we pitched it. We had a pilot episode. We came out here and we shot. And our goal here literally is to basically highlight the next generation of artists here in Taiwan.
Nice.
So if you notice, a lot of the shows that you see, it's 25, 30-year-olds playing, and we're like, wait a minute, the Disney model, the Nickelodeon model.
Right.
It's 15 to 18-year-olds playing a lot of stuff for high school shows.
Right.
So we really wanted to try to keep authenticity. So in our show that we did, the pilot for, we have 15 to 19-year-olds playing characters.
Like very true, very
true.
Consistent, authentic, genuine.
Yeah. So our goal here is we've established a talent agency, which right now we have our first talent that we signed show, and we're pitching a bunch of projects here. So
nice.
We have a variety of projects that we're getting out to people.
Nice.
And
the name of your production company is
Rising Storm.
Global Enterprise. Entertainment.
Yeah.
That's an amazing name. Rising Storm Global Entertainment.
Correct.
Rising Storm.
We're coming.
Why do I hear some I hear I can hear the Doors playing right now.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, we're coming.
Right, Jim
So,
Morrison on is. I can
correct.
hear him going right now.
Yeah. So I mean, we're excited to be here. So
That's amazing.
it's going to be interesting. So we've only been here for a couple of years, but we're ready to go. So we're ready to get everything rolling.
That's amazing. And so bring me back to LA though. You grew up in LA, or where did you grow up originally?
My dad was military, so
Okay.
I've been all over the place. So I was born in North Carolina, but grew up a good portion of my time in D.C.,
Nice.
Miami, and L.A. So I met Vicky in D.C., University of Maryland. So we basically, I was a consultant for many different companies,
Nice.
Fortune 500 companies and things like that. So we're just a problem solver.
Right.
So I had the fortunate pleasure of being able to meet a producer out in Los Angeles and helped her with her production company,
Wow.
Bonnie Paliff with Snapdragon Films.
Wow.
So
Shout out.
I cut my teeth under her just to be able to understand the industry a little bit more. I was more used to, marketing and database analysis and things like that. So
Right.
we would go around, whatever the problem was, we would solve it. So after learning under her, I'm like, oh wow, this is a viable business.
Nice.
And so I worked with her for a little bit. I was able to get to Fox Family for a year. It got took over by ABC Family. We were in on-air promotions. And once ABC Family took over, they took over all the people from Fox. So
Wow.
then you started doing a lot of independent things.
Right.
And then moved out to Miami. My wife was
Miami.
makeup hair. Yeah, she got picked up by an agency out in Miami. So we made our adjustments, went out there, and started working on some other things, helping kids with regards to applying to colleges
Nice.
and things like that. But there was always a synergy between helping the next generation discover who they are
Right.
and putting something into practice. So applying to colleges, but not for the sake of applying to colleges. It's more of the sake of what do you want to do and isolating how to go about doing it, especially from a business perspective. Because a lot of times people go to school or people do things when they're younger without looking at the long-term goal. You can have your fun, but understand there's a purpose for everything you do. So we try to instill that because, as we're growing up when we're younger, we're the latchkey kids. That was never quite instilled at the beginning. And it's like, no, we can develop this next generation. So we just took that now and we're doing that with the arts because I know the arts, you can do very well in the arts, but most parents, especially, here in Taiwan, they don't see how you, quote, can make it in the entertainment industry. I'm like, it's hard, but if you treat it like a business, you can.
Wow.
So we're trying to provide opportunities for these kids to be able to make it doing something that they like to do, but give them the practical skills to be able to do it.
So this company brings them through a whole kind of process.
Yeah,
Like you onboard talent and you kind of
Yeah, so what we did
teach and coach and train them too.
Correct. So what we did for our pilot, because we wanted to see if it worked here, because the model in Nickelodeon and the model at Disney is they basically train them from the beginning on up and they keep putting them in shows. So the talent, like here, when you're young, a lot of people here expect these, if you're 15-year-olds, you have to be the best actor. I'm like, no, you're trying to get them to cut their teeth and get people to see them and get them in as many projects as possible.
Oh, I see. So
you're building a portfolio.
I see.
It doesn't matter if
Back to the basics,
if
essentially.
it doesn't matter if they're the best. If you have a cute storyline, the typical demographic audience is 13 to 24 that watches a lot of these shows. It's one of those where you get a proper storyline, put them in as many shows as possible. Then when they start developing even better, you see Zendaya, you see,
Right.
Miley Cyrus, Zac Efron. I mean, you can go back if you look at the Brat Pack. We're trying to model a little bit after the Brat Pack, where you had, Demi Moore and all
Interesting.
that.
I see.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a bunch of high school, even college, and put them in multiple stuff. So now that they have a portfolio, so when the big films come along, they're ready to go for the bigger films.
Oh, that's super dope because now that you broke it down like that, I think a lot of people, they don't realize that the stars they see today are essentially have been being cultivated, trained,
Yeah.
getting experience. It's almost like Major League Sports.
Correct.
right? They have been scouted in their teens, and then they put them through the system, the know-how, the process.
Correct.
And so you noticed there's a gap in Taiwan. They're not utilizing these models.
Well, what's happening in Taiwan is that they don't have enough projects to put the kids into. And then when they do training, it's like once you're...
There's a shortage of projects?
For high school, absolutely. So, but when you do the training, they kind of guide you to, if you're going to be a dancer, that's it, dance. So you're going to be great at that. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Mark Wahlberg was a rapper.
Marky Mark.
John Travolta was a singer and a dancer. I mean, so you have a lot of people that did other stuff prior to that. So Korea does that model. They have it's the triple threat:
right.
Singing, dancing, acting. So
triple threat of entertainment.
Triple threat. Now you can substitute one. So let's say I'm never going to be a great singer. Well, are you good at martial arts? Are you good at sports? Well, that could be your third thing. Are you good at languages? Are you good at improvisation? You're trying to have as much wide to be able to, if I'm a guy who comes at you with a project, and like for this pilot, it was interesting because we went to like 5-6 high schools, the performing arts schools here. We auditioned over 400 kids. We picked 19. And of the 19, we paid for, I think it was like 8 weeks of acting classes through the director and 8 weeks of dancing classes.
It's all through Rising Storm?
Yeah, we paid that.
That's
so
dope.
It's one of those, our goal is, they weren't.
It's like a one-stop shop
Yeah,
for cultivating emerging talent.
Yeah, they weren't ready to do it, but we're like, you know what? Even though they're a little bit green, it's like we wanted authenticity because a 25-year-old playing a high school kid, you've been around, so you know what the dating process is like, or you know what a crush would like. So even though you're thinking like, quote, you're a high school, you can't fool somebody who's already been through there. Where if you saw the kids, when you say, no, you have to show a crush, they're very awkward with their bodies. They're very nervous, so you kind of want a little bit of authenticity when it comes there. So you can tell the difference between the ages.
That's fascinating.
So that's kind of like what we're doing here. So we auditioned over 400 kids.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to implement here. So when we came here, our first goal with this pilot was, does our system, can it technically work? Because we don't know, because we've seen projects in the US, but can technically it work here? And it can work here. And now we know that we can get stuff done, and we understand the pricing models here.
Of course, and it's like a new terrain too, because
it's very new terrain.
There are things that work very well in the States, in the in the West, in Europe, America, and this is a new place to refine it.
Correct.
Make it better. Make it more fluid. Make it more seamless. But that's really interesting. Have you seen some really promising young actors, young entertainers here in Taiwan?
There's a lot of promising. It's whether you give them a chance, and if there's enough projects to do it. So I can ask you the question: where's the 18-year-old singer on the radio and the streamers from Taiwan? I mean, in the States, you had Selena Gomez, you had Miley Cyrus, you had Justin Bieber, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears. All those guys, they were young. They played them.
Right.
Here, the youngest one you hear on the radio is, what, 25? They're not good enough. I'm like, they're not supposed to be good enough. There are some that are really, really good. You might not be giving them a chance. So we're going to, we have companies here that we can partner up with regards to the singing, that we can put them in through those type of courses. So, we're doing everything we can to try to see, put them in a proper position to succeed and to learn, to have fun, to figure out who they are. And if we can have the projects to be able to do that, then now that feeds into kind of like the talent agency, and you can develop a long-term career as opposed to a short-term career.
So it sounds like what you're saying is, like, here in Taiwan, of course, smaller place, smaller geographical land, smaller population, still pretty high. But when you say shortage of projects, you mean within the amount of projects available, they're drawing from a small pool of talent? Or is the actual projects
a small amount of projects in comparison. And remember,
Meaning, so they're not creating enough.
yeah. So in other words, right now, as you know, there's only 24 million, I think 24, 25 million people in Taiwan. So the market is not big technically in and of itself.
Interesting.
So
not enough money to go around to fuel some of these.
Fuel some of these. And when films are made here in general, of course, they're tailored to the local market. And if you're trying to go global, you have to figure out what actually works global, that you can make local but has technically a global feel. And there's a fine line between that. That's why Korea's done so well. But Korea has a whole program with, the U.S. and, they learn from the U.S. The producers, the writers. There's a whole program
that's their model they follow, right?
Yeah, well, they have their own.
Well.
They have their own model. It's a little bit different because the way that they run their agencies. I mean, they sign people to 10-year contracts. You don't get that in the States. 2-3 year for at most for
a
talent.
role or a talent.
And here it's like 10 years.
Oh wow.
They lock them in for a long time. But if you don't, like Korea has enough projects because they're spitting them out all the time.
How do you increase project amount? Is it like
it's funding? I mean, it's funding, it's marketing, it's figuring out what works globally. So I mean,
Okay.
Where you learn from Taika's the government here that hands out grants. They're doing a fantastic job. I mean, since we've been here, they really see what they're trying their best to see how they can attack the global market.
right?
So they're doing everything in their power to try to figure this puzzle out.
Right.
It's a tough puzzle, but they're trying to figure out how can this work overseas. So
You got to increase demand of the actual content coming out of Taiwan, essentially, right?
yeah, and you have to understand the demographics. So a lot of times, there's things going on with films in general. They're not doing well, and I'm sitting here going, well, wait a minute, they can. I think that people have lost sight of the demographics that are going to the movies. The demographic that mainly goes to the movies is 13 to 24. So what type of movies are a 13 to 24-year-old going to see, followed by the 24 to 35-year-olds who, they want to go see a movie before they go out at 12 o'clock at night
Right.
and do their things.
Right.
So that's the demographic that you kind of have to look at. So what are they going to watch? Are they going to watch certain pieces or not?
Mm-hmm.
So you have festival films, great content. Is that what the 13, 15, 17-year-old going to see?
Mm-hmm.
What are they watching?
Mm-hmm.
So they're watching action. They're watching, look at what's happening now. Like Inside Out 2 is coming out. That's going to be good. They will like horrors, female comedy, romance, but relationships. So it's interesting to see what they go for.
Right.
I always tell people in the States, name me one high school movie that made it to the movie theaters, that actually made it to the box office. I'm not talking about streaming. That's a whole other thing. Name me one high school movie that made it to the theaters that lost money.
There's not one, right? They all made money. That's the point.
I always say, name one. You could probably find
First
one.
thing I thought of was American Pie. That was a success.
Yeah, but name one.
Even Superbad, success. That was like the most recent modern.
Mean Girls is Mean Girls 2 is the most recent. But I mean, name me one.
They're always profitable.
And because they're low cost to make in general. So if you're looking at cost to return, and the demographic, the key is the demographic. Who's going to watch the movies?
So we should make a high school
college,
banger movie.
High school, college,
something dope.
Something dope,
And that's what you're hoping to create. Are you going to create a film like that?
Yeah, what we're trying to. We have a variety of films that we're trying to do, and I think a lot of people look for the perfect script, perfect. Just everything has to be perfect. My goal, technically, or our goal, Vicky and I, is that when we do a film, we want people to enjoy it. So, in essence, if it's a horror movie, did it scare you? Did I make you jump a few times?
Right.
If it's an action movie, were you intrigued by the action scenes?
Right.
If it's a comedy, did I make you laugh? But what's happening, I think that one of the quote elephants in the room is they're going away from the story and just trying to fill in boxes. And it's like, you can't fill in the box.
Right.
You know, I have to put this person in over here to satisfy a quota per se. I'm like, if it goes to the storyline, yes. But if it doesn't match the story, then why? So things like that. Our shows basically aren't. I think we talked about this a little bit. We're not political in our shows. And I will say this: I don't care if you're left, right. If it's a good story and it's about relationships, you can touch a little bit on it, but you don't stay on it. And I think what's happening now is a lot of people are getting too sidetracked on trying to put issues and everything into their stories when they're forgetting technically about the story itself. So a lot of times it comes off a little bit preachy with it, whichever way it goes.
And you try to stay away from that. And we try to go to the essence.
We try to stay away from that. I mean, the bottom line is you can address issues in a respectful manner, but again, it always goes back to the story. Now, if the story is specifically on that, like a great story I loved was Philadelphia with Tom Hanks, and I'm like, no, I mean that dealt with AIDS, but it was purposeful. It was a proper context within the story that was being given.
Right.
And that's what I hope that everybody gets back to, as opposed. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm looking forward to the new one coming out with Axel F. Something simple with Beverly Hills Cop. It's coming out on Netflix, so I'm looking forward to see that. I love the old Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy.
Right.
I'm sure it's going to be funny.
That's fire.
Funny and action. So that's what I want to see. So when I see Eddie Murphy, I'm like, oh, this is going to be funny, and it's going to be a lot of action.
That's fire.
Right.
I mean, that's cool. You know, we're in this world now where like content is king.
Yeah.
Content is beyond. There's a quote I love. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And I ask myself, who is that one-eyed man now? The one-eyed man is the content creator, is the cameraman, is the man with that scope. And I feel like the more that we all become storytellers, or we're more aware of authentic stories around us, that starts to allow us all to see more clearly, see each other more clearly, because I think we all learn from great stories. What do you feel is the significance and the power of storytelling in our society right now, and entertainment?
I look at it, there's two different things with regards to story. What's the purpose of it? Our purpose is more along the lines of an entertainment aspect. So storytelling is great with regards to if you want to bring to life something like Saving Private Ryan, World War II.
I love Saving Private Ryan.
You know, Normandy. I mean, that was one of the most realistic scenes that you could possibly imagine. Beautifully shot. So storytelling, when it talks to about specific issues and if it's done correctly, pays homage to true history, what it's really about, not my opinion of the history, just go right to what it was about. You can make adaptations. Titanic was an adaptation. It was a great storyline, but they still kept the major plot of Titanic in there. Ours, we're looking more along the lines of people want to escape. So you can go to a story that you can learn a lot of stuff, or you can go to a story that just entertains you. It could be slapstick humor. It could be, as I said, make you jump scare. I want to scare the bejesus out of you. You don't know when that person's going to get killed. You don't know how they're going to happen. You know, I don't mind doing stuff like that. But a lot of times it always ends up going back. Stories always goes back to relationship. So it's how do you deal with adversities in relationships? Every story is relationship based. So how do people deal with each other? How do people deal with consequences of their actions? What happens during that time frame? I saw a movie, Blood In, Blood Out. I know we'd like to talk about all these old school gangster movies. My favorite one's
Right.
Goodfellas. I mean, a lot of people like Godfather, but
Classic.
there's one that I think
I like Donnie Brasco.
there's a lot of people. Yeah, Donnie Brasco. That's great. But there's one that a lot of people sleep on that I would recommend if you can see it. It's Blood In, Blood Out.
All right.
It's great. I mean, you had what's his name? Delroy Lindo's in there. Billy Bob Thornton was in there. Benjamin Bratt. I mean, a lot of characters.
Right.
But that whole story, which is a bunch of gang life, pretty much, the storyline in and of itself, you can sum it up. It was a Mexican and a white parents, guy who cannot fit in either with the Mexican culture or the white culture.
Right. Caught in between two
And he's
worlds.
caught in between, and his role model, which was Benjamin Bratt's character,
Right.
was the leader of Hispanic gang, but he was white. So he was a Hispanic, the main character, not Benjamin Bratt. He was a Hispanic who looked white. So he could not fit in there, but his role model was Benjamin Bratt. So he gets into prison after trying to follow Benjamin Bratt's lead. Benjamin Bratt becomes I'm not going to give all the spoilers, but becomes a cop. But in prison now, he has to maneuver as a white-looking Hispanic in a prison.
That's a cool setup. That's interesting.
But it's relationships.
Right.
So
Always.
he's always looking for the approval of this guy, of Benjamin Bratt, and he never can get there. But the story that it plays out, again, I don't want to give spoilers, so I'm not going to give any spoilers.
True.
But it's definitely one to watch. For me, it's one of the top 5-10 gang movies that you can see.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, movies is a language for you, I feel. Movies, film.
Love movies.
This is how you communicate, and essentially. And at a certain point, I think when you have watched so many films, those are all reference points. And prior to the show, I had a couple guests. They can speak Chinese very well, living here in Taiwan, and we talk about Chengyu, which is their, Chinese history's 4 quatrains or poems. So I look at the basis of movies, and it takes me back to, of course, the epics, the sagas, the Homers, right, the Iliads, and these archetypal stories that are always circulating throughout our human existence. What are some of your favorite archetypal stories?
Oh, wow. Well, you have to remember, I'm a Gen Xer.
Okay.
So I'm the guy who watched Jaws
All right.
when it first came out to movie theater, and
All
I was
right.
10 years old.
Wow.
By the way, our parents, we somehow were able to get into those movies.
Right.
So Star Wars,
Right.
77, I saw that
In the theaters.
in the theaters. But if you see Star Wars and you look at, a little bit of Dune, which was prior to Star Wars, but also if you look at Flash Gordon, there's some imagery that was in Star Wars that was in Flash Gordon. Everything works up on each other.
I feel like Gen X grew up in some of like the golden times of cinema and movie when it was just like really blossoming.
Correct.
Like movies were the content, and I feel like paralleling that to now, movies aren't the thing that we gravitate towards for content anymore.
Well,
It seems like
you have social media. You have the TikTokification, Instagram,
TikTokification.
You have all of that. So social media, people want it quicker, people want it faster. So for us, I'm okay with a story taking a little bit of time to develop.
Right.
I'm okay with it. But now it's tough to grab the attention if it doesn't get to the point as quick as possible. Whereas, when we were growing up, if you did Jaws now, it would take a while for people to get through those first, probably the first 20 minutes of the film.
The simmer. The
simmer,
setup. Yeah.
But there's a great shark movie out now on Netflix that I saw. It's fantastic. Under Paris.
Mm-hmm.
But they come out strong. So we have a little bit more simmering. So let's take a look. I grew up Indiana Jones. You have the opening scene with the ball and everything running and
Right.
all of that stuff. However, After that, it takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes to develop Harrison Ford's character before they start getting into the rest of the arc story. He's a professor, and you want to know a little bit about his backstory, and
Right.
so you're just developing the flavor and the feel. And it took them a little bit longer, but it's okay.
Before I talk about, you're making me think about like types of content that are becoming more popular now. But before I get into that though, too, you still didn't answer my archetypal. What's your favorite archetypal?
My favorite. Oh, geez. Well,
the hero story, the gang.
I
What comes to mind?
I have a propensity. I like a couple. I mean, I like horror stories, and
Okay.
I do, if it's done proper. I mean, I do like the mob story. The Goodfellas.
Yes.
I do like that. So those are my two. So that's why I always say I normally go towards Goodfellas.
Fire. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that opening scene when Goodfellas walking into the restaurant.
Yeah.
Come on now.
So
that continuous shot is.
Yeah. So I go.
That's the sauce.
There.
That's the sauce.
Yeah.
I think that's like almost subconsciously the epitome of where every entrepreneur, hustler sees themselves one day is.
And
pull out the chairs.
And
there's no seats in this restaurant, but we're gonna make seats for you.
Correct. And I have a guilty pleasure, which is those off college films. So the Animal House.
That's cool. That's cool.
I can name a few that I really love.
Dazed and Confused.
I like Revenge of the Nerds.
I love Revenge of the Nerds.
Animal House.
We're still in Revenge of the Nerds, I feel.
Pretty much.
The world is in Revenge of the Nerds.
Correct. So those type, and the newer kind of
that movie's prophetic.
Old school.
I love Revenge. I got to go back to that. That's crazy.
The Will Ferrell ones, old school.
Oh, old school. I see.
So I kind of like that. There's another one that we like called, it was a Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School.
Oh, man. He's a legend.
So those are kind of like, I like those little slapstick.
That's cool.
Not too serious, just give me some funny gags, some pranks, those are funny.
That's cool. So here we are now. It's 2024. You've kind of seen a wild evolution of film, media, entertainment now into content. Here we're here on a podcast. Podcasts are becoming huge. People are listening to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
There's interpretations to it. My own interpretation is that we're coming out of this short form overdose, I feel, where people have just become hooked to the 15-second format, right? It's just swiping. Next video. So I almost feel like coming off of that, we want healthy food again. We're off the junk food. We want long form sustenance, authentic, genuine content, long form conversations where it feels like these are storytellers. These are people sharing their wisdom, advice, their experiences. Where do you see the nexus between long form content and where it's going? Like, what's the next evolution there?
That's a good question. Everything always goes back to story and capturing somebody's attention or mind.
And keeping it.
But also directing it to the proper audience to be able to keep it. So not everybody's going to like long form. Not everybody's going to like short form. So you really have to know your demographic on who's going to gravitate to that. Everything is cycles. So just to tell you where we came from, I think you remember, we were TV. And at 12 o'clock, they played the Star Spangled Banner. You had the little, the little fuzz on the end and off. And the remote control was our fingers. Then they had VHS, beta, so people could just watch a couple of movies. They go out, and it's a movie night at home. But it was off of beta and VHS. So this started going up. Films is great, but now what happened was social media basically has blown everything up. TikTok, Instagram, all these short forms. So it's very tough to see where that's going. It depends on every generation and how they react to the following generation. So how can I explain this?
It's interesting.
It's interesting. So the 80s generation, which, the Gen Xers, were kind of like, just leave us alone. We'll watch it. TV, we don't need to be on TikTok and all that other stuff. So we won't, but we are the ones that can adapt to kind of like everything. Then you have the next generation, which is the millennials. So they came in, and this is when this social media really started to blow up, was with them. But it was more not short form content. It was, what was it, like, more like Facebook.
Beginning of YouTube.
The beginning of YouTube,
and then
and it was
the beginning of short form was Vine. Remember that was 7 seconds.
Vine. A lot of people want to bring Vine back, by the way. A lot of people are like, why can't we have Vine back? So
right.
You're starting to get that. I think TikTok is the key right now, because TikTok has the most viewers in general.
So you're thinking that's an indicator of the audience.
I think the TikTok and YouTube are
the current audience. What?
Yeah.
So you're thinking to yourself, like, and of course that's a big data analyzation, because it's like, what type of content is really generating the most
TikTok
attention,
added
traction?
the 10-minute, because they're trying to make it longer, because there is that 10 to 15 minute slot that actually the short form is actually starting to work. And it's right between the classes for the kids. It's when you're on the bus. They want to catch an episode, 5-10 minute episode. So
this is a battle for. This is really a battle for free time to put your attention somewhere.
Correct. So when you're looking at content in the way from time perspective, I like to go to movies. However, when you're on the bus and you have to get from one place to the other in 10, 15 minutes, a 40-minute program is not going to do really anything for you. You want to catch something before you get on to the next, on with your day. You want short burst episodics. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these 26 episodes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes an episode. So they're taking a full, 2 hours, 3 hours worth of content, and they're breaking it up into 5-10 minutes, because they know that people are watching it in between their commutes.
Mm-hmm.
They know that kids are watching it in between their classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that little time frame. The TikTokification, those 15 seconds, it's just quick, whatever. But from a story content perspective, how can I grab you for anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes during your break? So that's where it's going. But
that's what you mean by TikTokification.
Yeah,
everything is becoming. But that's so ironic that it's called TikTok.
Well, I'm like calling it TikTok.
No, I'm saying it's cool, because it's like TikTok. We're trying to clock you. Something is trying to clock us.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too. We won't get too conspiracy theory, but there is something that's trying to clock us.
Yeah, and I think it's distractions, because there's a lot of things going on. If I can keep, ideally, if I can keep you technically on the phone, you're watching my content. People get paid to watch, for them to watch your content. How am I going to keep them continuously watching my content?
Right.
Our goal, yeah, of course, that's it. But we're trying to do something a little bit different, in the sense that, it's just that everyone is so overloaded with these little snippets here. Everything is a soundbite, and nobody knows context anymore within a soundbite.
Interesting.
So how can I grab your attention in 15 seconds, 30 seconds,
the clips,
a minute?
The gems? That's what I call them.
And when you look at what they're capturing you're losing the context of the whole story. I can make you think one thing or another, depending on what clip I put from a show, from the news, from everywhere. I can narrate that in 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and it might be the exact opposite of what you interpreted. And I wanted you to get away. I didn't want you to look at what really was said or what the movie was really about.
I see that happening. I feel like sometimes I like to dissect the current forms of content that are out right now in older model names. I'll give you an example. Instagram Reels. There's a niche of Instagram Reels that people do that essentially is just a review or a Yelp, but they turned the review into an edited video reel. So what that looks like is, here I am at this restaurant. Today I ordered this, and then it came, and it tasted amazing, and then it is this, and then I'm thinking about going to this, and then after that I went to the, and the video is cutting, and the whole thing culminates in like a 30-second captivating video. But essentially, it's just a review.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, what do you think is being repurposed, or coming back to surface? Like, you're talking about the little snippables.
Yeah.
Right? But what are we repurposing actually in a new way?
Well, it depends on the content. Like, let's go with your review, and what is that person repurposing? His reviews are going to do well or not well when people go to the restaurant and they say, "Oh, your taste is not good."
That happened here in Taiwan.
Then I'm not going to follow you anymore, because you have to be authentic to really what it is. So
that happened to me here in Taiwan. I saw an amazing reel. I went to the restaurant. It got me. I tried it. It was trash.
How many movie trailers have you seen? You look at the movie trailer, they put all the top scenes in the movie trailer, and then the rest of the movie was
right. So, and this is where I'm leading towards, which is like, now we're entering a world full of trailers, full of these clips, these quick clips, these quick hooks. What's going to happen to what's going to happen to the long form? How do we keep people in the long form?
You keep people in the long form by allowing them, first of all, to have access to go see it. Look at the movie theaters. I mean, it's very expensive to go to a movie theater.
True.
So you want to be able to get them to go to the box office, because people will still go out to watch a movie. But if you're a family of 3, family of 4, going to the movie theaters now is what, $80 to $100. If you had the popcorn, it's a big night out. So that's why a lot of that stuff is, that's why a lot of people are at home. They invite their friends over, and they have viewing parties at their house. So the streaming channel is, you're losing a lot with the box office, because I can now go home and watch this. I don't want to spend all that money.
Right. And so there is a direct connection to how much people are making.
Correct.
On a majority level, which then influences our culture now.
And who spends the most when they go out? Because they're young, the 13 to 24 and the 24
They don't got the money.
They don't have the money.
Wow.
Or if they do, they're the ones that would spend it frivolously. So that's why you see them in the movie theaters, because they'll spend frivolously whatever they have. So in general, when you're looking at long form, trying to maintain the long form, a good story will keep people to go watch the movie. Like right now, you have Long Legs is having a great marketing plan with Nicolas Cage. It's a horror movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But the whole marketing is, you don't even have Nicolas Cage show up as the serial killer. And it's a horror. And they're grabbing the attention. People will still go out to watch, but you have to grab their attention, be it through proper marketing. And with that marketing, you have to deliver, because you don't want it to be first week everybody's there, and then the second week, all of a sudden you have nobody show up because it was garbage, which happens a lot.
Right.
Oh, it was so hyped up, and now next time you put a movie out, they're like, nah, I don't want to see that anymore.
Right.
So story is always the thing. Long form is always about storytelling and knowing who you're trying to get to see the movie.
And to sit for that time.
To sit for that time frame. Long forms are here. I mean, people are still watching films, and it's being proven now people are going to watch these movies. They're going to have a really good box office coming up right now. Not the beginning part of the year, but now with some of these films coming out, they're expecting really good things. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so hopefully, I'm hoping that a lot of movies hit because it will just bring the industry back. I think they're starting to realize there is theater and then there is at home streaming, that people do want to go out. They do want to have that interaction with other people in a crowd. Those dinner theaters,
Of course.
I see them packed.
Of course.
There's something laughing with 100 other people. There's something to it.
Right. It just taps into our tribal nature.
And here we saw it with, Top Gun Maverick.
That was fire.
It came out and it was fire.
Yeah.
It was fire. Everybody.
Nostalgia too. Nostalgia is powerful.
Very powerful. And sadly, it's remakes of old movies
that's keeping the industry alive.
It's remakes.
I'm just very fascinated with what's going to happen now because, as you know, this podcast, this Beyond the Hustle, we're trying to explore kind of what the future holds. What's next after these traditional methods are starting to become redundant and people are learning how to create content, to generate their own income, and what that's going to happen to people from these tried and true industries. And I say that in a way, it's a little challenging, but because I still believe, I'm from that. I believe in people like yourself who want to bring those authentic storytellings to those mainstream platforms, but you're going against the tidal wave right now. So it's like, how do you adapt? How do you stay resilient?
You stay resilient by captivating the group that's going to be the next generation, which is why we have a lot the high school and the college films, which is why our films, I love John Hughes, I love The Breakfast Club, I love The Brat Pack, I like those type of films, the Some Kind of Wonderfuls. Well, ideally we'd like to make Taiwanese versions of those, but not
something
not
new.
the story,
Right.
Something new, but just inspirations to be able to build off of those type of stories, and you have to captivate the youth. So if they start seeing proper shows that they want to go to, that's how you get them to continue to go watch the movies. It starts with, what are they watching now? So the reason why there's a lot of people watching TikTok is that's who they're targeting the kids with the TikTok. But there's if you go to Taiwan, there's no high school movies on the movie theaters. Or is there? Have you seen one?
No.
Have you seen a college movie?
No.
No.
But there were some good shows from like the 90s, early 2000s.
Correct.
So they kind of stopped with it?
Yeah. It for me, it baffles my mind. And I'm sitting here going, well, you need to take the lessons from what Korea is doing. Look at all the top actors in Korea and look at what, I mean, they have School 2017, School 2015, School 2013. The one that started it off for me with Korea was Dream High. Wow. Dream High, the Inheritors, and Boys Over Flowers.
You're like a content historian. Manny knows his content.
Here in Taiwan, here in Taiwan, it was what? Meteor Garden, and they did the remake of the Meteor Garden.
Right.
Fascinating. And guess what? Everybody knows those actors to this day, but that was a high school show.
Right.
And we talked about it in the States. Sean Penn, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Right. Classic.
And Taps.
So I would even go as far as to say is what gets you excited is you want to generate some new potential classics.
Correct. Absolutely. We want to generate new classics, but new talent. Like I don't want to see the same actors over and over and over again, all the time. Here, you can count them on it's like 10 actors are in everything. And it's like, no, you need to interject the new and give them opportunities.
Right.
But to the point here is that you can't give these guys opportunities in stories that aren't catered to them. So you have adult stories where you can't put up-and-coming people. You may put one or two in. So you have to use the actors that are already here. It's like, no, create high school and college content and start putting in all these young guys in those so that they can start developing a following. You have to do that. But here, they have stories, but it's only one or two. And the one or two that they cast in general, they're 23, 24, 25. You have a couple that did 12 and 17 years old. But the one top actor that I saw, a young guy that came out, I think his name Jimmy Liu. He was in the Disney show. They went over to Disney, and he was in one of those. He left.
Right.
I'm not sure if he's back, but he was on a show picked up by Disney. Gone. But if there was 20 projects here, you could have just kept feeding, and now you have a young talent that has 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 shows.
That's fascinating.
So the way that you get the long form to continue, and the way that you do that is you get the kids to go see content that they want to see. It's pretty
self-evident.
It's right. Self-evident.
Right.
A high school show, real high school kids
dealing with issues and relationship problems that they're going through.
Correct. And you can do it like, look at the high school. You Scream. Who's in a high school? You can have a horror. You can have your known actors be the teachers, whatever. But you could stuff a bunch of teens that are developing. They're the main actors running around.
I mean, that got me thinking now too. Like, shout out everyone who's listening. If you're watching this, comment below what kind of issues you're going through right now. If you're in high school, like, what do you want to learn about? But that's crazy, because then that makes me think, okay, every form of content should be listening to high schools, colleges, for what they're hungry for. Correct. What kind of content they're looking, and how do you get to that information?
One, I help kids here as well, so you just listen to what they like. I mean, like here, there's a big culture with dance. There's underground dance culture here.
Huge. Here in Taiwan, there's so many mirrors that they've established in like different metros and public spaces.
You're from New York,
right?
The dances that they're doing here, aren't they mirroring New York about 20 years ago?
Similar,
15?
Very similar.
So it's almost like they're following, but they're like a few years behind where the rest.
No, I've noticed that. There is a ripple effect that happens from New York, from LA, of course, Atlanta. Depends what genre you're in. Of course, with music, that's one of the biggest ripples. But New York is always the first. Always has been. And then it ripples throughout the world. And usually, from my experience here in Taiwan, kind of visiting here for like the last over 20 years, the ripple effect has like a 5 to 7 year lag.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
So I don't know how that is in film, what that lag time is. I'm sure there's a lag. Maybe that's your help to decrease that latency.
We're trying to decrease that, and we're trying to make stuff that will play overseas as well. So we're trying to. But to your point with the New York and what brings this generation in, the common denominators that bring everybody together: dance, music, food. Those are cross-cultural everywhere. So dance and music is huge when it comes to this generation, this younger generation with TikTok, all those dances that they're doing on TikTok and on Instagram. They're creating different skits and they're going viral. So we came here. I'm sitting here going, well, Korea's doing well overseas. We want the long form content here. There's more Mandarin speakers overseas than there are Korean speakers. So why can't we have a lot of Mandarin content take off overseas?
Right.
Through the Asian communities overseas.
Right.
There's more Mandarin speakers.
Right.
So there technically is a market there, but who's going to go watch? So what do you draw them in with? You draw them in with, and also location. A lot of people have forgotten that the location is we call it the sixth man. In the end, it's an actor. So why are people going to Korea when you know and I know that 20 years ago nobody was going to Korea? Well, when they saw Boys Over Flowers and they highlighted Jeju Island, when it was also in The Inheritors.
Yes.
And they showed what it looked like. People are like, oh, that's The Getaway?
Yes.
I want to go see it. I love this show. Let me go see it.
Always has been. The beach. Leonardo DiCaprio.
The beach.
Pretty much, side effect destroyed that island in Thailand.
Correct.
Right? I forgot what it's called, but I was there actually a few months ago. And seas of tourists. But the beach kind of started like a whole 10, 15-year tourism rush.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at New Zealand with Lord of the Rings. Train to Busan. Now people want to go to Busan. But the stark contrast, Korea, Taiwan. Look at the lushness of Taiwan. I mean, you've got, in the mountains, you have lakes. You've got the green trees. You've got snow. I mean, you have, in the south, you got surfing. Some of the better surf spots, dive spots.
Mm-hmm.
You have a wide variety of different locations that you can literally highlight in a show or in a movie.
Just has to be brought together in the right way.
So here it is. I can do a documentary on Taiwan. How many people actually go out and watch documentaries and say, I'm going to go there? However, the little finger. However, if I'm going to use a U.S. film, let's say Point Break, with Keanu Reeves.
Classic, yeah.
But this is Taiwan's.
But in Ilan.
This is
Wow. That's going to be our next movie.
This is Taiwan's Point Break.
That's
now
be next
I'm
one.
highlighting surfing. Now you're going to get the surfers
Yo,
coming.
let's can we make the Taiwan Point Break in Ilan?
Yeah.
Why y'all?
Yeah, we can do that.
Or the Taiwan Dazed and Confused.
Correct.
John is like
Yes.
John Drummond's like Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
So but now they see the highlight. We could show the diving spots, show some great stuff going on there. Now when people look at a movie that they like, they identify, has some action, but they have surf spots. Some of these beaches look as if I'm going to, Vietnam or Thailand.
Right. So then you just promote the
you
local.
Just promoted it. So
without even trying.
Because
it's part of the story. Yeah, I feel that.
But one of the differences here is the communications technically between the ministries. Everyone's separated. So, hospitality should be, the tourism should be in on this. How do I promote instead of advertising, on a TikTok, whatever? How can I promote our places through film? Mm-hmm. Guess what? Mm-hmm. If a film goes out, and it takes off, it's out forever. It's almost like I did a commercial. But the commercial is being played 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later,
right,
30 years later. Whereas you could pay for a commercial, but once that season's done, the commercial's gone.
It sounds like you're a very film purist. Like film is not going nowhere.
No, it can't. I mean, people in life in general, film, sports, art houses, immersion. That's why a lot of people, the arts, I want to get rid of art. A lot of people want to get rid of arts, and why are we funding a lot of these? Well, arts is something that brings people together. Arts is something that can take people's mind off of everything that's going on in the world. There's enough news and enough things going on everywhere that people need to tune out of.
Right.
And some people just want to get away. You're being bombarded everywhere. People want to get away. People want to enjoy life, enjoy time with their friends, enjoy time with the family. How can we do stuff together? Everybody knew movie date night. Right.
What wakes you up, Manny? What gets you excited in the morning?
My wife and my daughters and my family. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the main thing. God, of course, number one. So that's what gets me going. And relationships. At the end of the day, everybody has their strengths, and I guess we're getting into what makes me tick. I just enjoy people. I'm more of a networker. So I will go meet people everywhere just to enjoy their company and have a good time from that perspective, develop friendships. So that's my kind of like my strength here. Like when we talk about films, we can talk about productions, we can talk about just people in general. I like connecting people to people.
I mean, there's a great quote that has been, surfing the waves. Your net worth is your network. And for you, do you feel like in your life, has that network been a source of inspiration, abundance, creativity?
Absolutely. The network is key, but I think a lot of people confuse network and business. My networking in general, yes, there's business, but my networking is technically not about business. My networking is relationship, because I value friendship over a lot of people try to meet somebody to get something from them. It's like, no. Like, I'm going to try to find a job, so I'm going to do this. It's like, no. It's not about that. It's about, do you vibe with somebody? Can you be friends? Can you help them with what they want with somebody else? Don't expect anything in return. A lot of people expect stuff from other people, and I'm like, no, it's just friendships are more valuable than anything else. So it's different. So I always have to separate networking purposeful when you go to, like when I go to a film exposition event. That's purposeful. That's something. But you meet people in many different places. Mm-hmm. You just have to find out who vibes with you and who doesn't vibe with you.
Right. What is it about vibes? How would you describe vibes and energy?
Like this.
Naturally.
I like to think that everybody could get along with me. Yeah, and Vicky, you'd like to think that. I'd like to think that. But life happens, and you never know what the other person is. So it's just can you hold a conversation with someone? Can you talk about a myriad of different things? And it's basically doing life. Enjoy time with their kids, seeing what's up with them, taking an interest in somebody else's life, being there for somebody when they need something.
Right.
It's one of those, like our house, I always say here, if you know me, everybody knows we have an extra place in our apartment. We have an extra room. I said, look, if you can't make it to where you need to go, or if something's whatever, you need a place, we have an extra room. Our home is your home.
Yeah.
So to the people that we know, I'm like, it's okay. You can take us up on it. Our refrigerator is your refrigerator.
In Chinese, we say 不要客气.
Yeah.
I feel like you remind me of a time period from like the 50s, 60s. And I'm curious where or who instilled this kind of philosophy or this, this perspective.
You mean where everything can be done with a handshake and you're good? My dad was military. My dad, Cuba, Spain. He was in the Bay of Pigs. Grew up. We basically lived everywhere. I lived in Panama. I was born in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, D.C. Been in Colombia, Europe, all over the place. So when you're traveling in the military, there is a discipline. There's a respect for other people. So he definitely instilled that in me. My mom, Haitian, German, French, but the German is in her. So she's a very tough woman, loving woman, but very tough.
Rigid.
Not yet. She could be, but they were.
Sorry, Germans.
Yeah, but
no. Let me not say that.
No, but can you imagine?
Germans make sleek lines. They make sleek things.
But think of it this way: when she spoke French with the German attitude.
That's interesting.
So it's weird to hear the dynamic.
That's interesting.
When that
German attitude. That's true.
Yeah,
they do have
but
an
French
attitude.
is a romantic language. It's very. But when she spoke it, it was like, ooh, wait a minute
Some
here.
spice.
Yeah, so it could be very blunt, very
Right.
So in essence, they're the ones that kind of instilled that. Most of my main buds, they're the blunt, no filter.
That's right. You need that.
Tell you what it. A lot of people nowadays can't take a lot of that. I don't know what it is. The difference between when we were growing up to now, but I mean, there's just blunt honesty, blunt truth. If they say they like something,
sobering.
They'll just tell you, and I like that because it keeps you in check. However, you know that they'll have your back if you need anything. So everything was basically instilled from that time frame. My friends are like that. My dad, my mom, we traveled around
right
everywhere, so we got used to adapting to different cultures. Like I think we talked about this before. You could plot me in any country. I don't care which country. It could be China, Russia, Africa, Israel, Middle East, U.S., anywhere in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people that the world is not so hard, especially if you go to other countries. The golden rule is, I'm a guest in your country or in your state. I will follow the rules of what your state or your country allows. It's very simple. I will respect your laws. So if you tell me I can't do X, Y, Z, I'm a guest. I won't have X, Y, Z. Very simple. It
goes back to that fundamental being in someone else's house and someone else's home.
Correct. And so I've always kind of approached things in that manner.
That etiquette.
Yeah.
There's an etiquette there.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my dad instilled a lot in that.
How to move through different rooms in different countries amongst.
Well, he was military, so yeah, and he did a lot of stuff. He was Bay Pigs. He was in the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
he's that generation. So, I was raised with that.
That's really cool to hear that. Now that you're, cultivating that kind of culture.
Yeah.
That door's open. That the door's not locked. Look, there's a room here, because that really reminds me of, I spent time in New Jersey at one point, like that suburban.
Yeah.
Which I feel kind of is the seeds of that old American dream. It's becoming old.
Yeah.
That idea of like community and neighborliness, neighborhood. Everyone, all the kids go out and play,
and you can go in everybody's houses too.
Right.
The parents are like, "Come on in," but then you go out, you come in, grab a quick bite, then you head out wherever you're going to head out. Yeah, the cultures are different. What I've noticed here, because again, it's a little different culture. We like to invite people over to our home,
right?
But here, people go out to eat.
Oh yeah.
So it's a little different. But when we've had people come over to our house, like, oh, this is different. This is nice. So we'll do the games. We'll do so it's interesting to see the reactions when they finally do that. And it's like
the arbitrage.
It's like
cultural arbitrage.
It's a different feel. It's more intimate. It's more personal. I can be at a restaurant. You have all the noise and everything, and you can go to the clubs or do whatever it is that you do, karaoke,
right,
and all that other stuff. But there's something about a gathering at the house, potluck. Everybody bring their own dish, and just shooting the breeze. Pull out some games if need be. If it's too big of a gathering, normally our games are 10 to 14 people.
Right.
We can get some great games going, but it's personal.
Right.
It's personal.
Right. That's essential.
Yeah. So when we even had our entertainment friends over, we brought some in. They're like, "This is different. Not everybody's here in entertainment." I'm like, "No, everyone's here because they're cool." It's like you're gonna like everybody here. So that's the vibe that we always wanted to do.
I
They're
think
from
that's so
all
important.
different, all different backgrounds.
When's the next one, man? We might have to pull up.
Yeah, well, you're always welcome to that.
When's the next one of these? This summer? Is the summer BBQ?
I try to do 3 or 4 a year for that.
Really?
Yeah, it's for the bigger ones, and then the smaller ones, we try to do about 3.
That's fire. You mentioned briefly that you give it up to God.
Yeah.
What's your relationship or your understanding of this some kind of higher power? What is that?
No, we're Christian. Jesus is our Lord and Savior. It's very simple. It's a personal relationship, and so we just stand fast with that by your actions, how you treat people,
Right.
And just being there for people.
Right.
So we want to do stuff with integrity. So that's what we go with right there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
In terms of that message.
Yeah.
Being there for people, because I already can sense that from what you've cultivated in your content and the direction you're going through when it comes to authenticity. Mm-hmm. That parallel is integrity.
Yeah.
Right. It's the truth.
Yeah.
Truly being there. And you also mentioned you want to provide a place for people to escape. So it's almost like giving a shelter. It's like you're creating forms of, protection.
Correct. Yeah.
How do you interpret that?
No, I mean, look, the bottom line is if you go with the attitude of how can I help you without expecting anything in return, that's the caveat. How can I help you? I'm here for you. What do you need? That's it. It's a very simple switch in mentality.
Perspective.
That's it. So if you start off with that thought, then everything else should just flow. Nice.
And speaking of flow, you believe in flow state? Have you been in flow state before?
Flow state?
Yeah, like when things are just, everything's clicking, everything's falling into place, everything's aligning.
It happens, and then it gets broken, and then it happens, and it gets... So, as an entrepreneur, and as, just life in general, you can get into flow. Sometimes the flow state is good, but if it's comfortable, I don't like that.
Why?
Because comfortable breeds complacency. So a lot of people get stuck in, I'm just going to go through the flow. Everything's paid. Everything is this. Everything is going smoothly, but you just stay there. As an entrepreneur and just in life, I like to push things. We failed more times than we succeeded. But my belief, and Vicky's been with me for a while, is I'd rather swing and strike out than never swing.
Always.
At all. So it's that's kind of like our mentality. So there's 4 things that happen. There's time. There's opportunity. So if you have the time and the opportunity when they meet and the right person. So a lot of people say there's 3. There's the person, there's the time, and the opportunity. All those 3 things have to meet at one point. And rarely do they do. You come up with opportunities, but you have the wrong person. But here's the 4th. When you have those 3 meet, the 4th is, are you man enough to make the decision to go for it or not, even if you don't have all the information? There's the decision aspect of it. And you can be wrong. And many times you are. But decisions are huge. You get your counsel, you do everything, but you have to be also paralysis by analysis.
Right.
So you have to be able to make a decision. You weigh everything. And because I'll tell you, everybody is going to fail. When you fail, yes, you have to be able to take it for a second, but you have to learn to dust off there's another day.
Right.
So that's kind of like, that's kind of like the way that we kind of approach stuff, because most people, you think that you're succeeding in some things, but in many cases, I just see people who, yes, they're going with the flow, but is it the real flow, or is it I'm comfortable?
So you're always checking in with that?
Yeah. And Vicky will tell you our life has been nothing fully comfortable.
Wow.
So she'll tell you. I mean, we've had a couple where, but it's like, it's like,
You've been through the roller coaster.
yeah, we've been
through
through
high
it.
tides,
Yeah,
low
yeah,
tides.
yeah. Look, I mean, I think this probably happened to you. There's opportunities you wish you had that you would have taken and you didn't take. There's others that you took like, I shouldn't have done that one. So you're all, you can always second guess, but you're still
Hindsight's always 2020.
hindsight's always 2020. It's like, what did you learn? Okay, now let's go from here.
Right.
And you can't dwell on it. The rear view mirror is meant to just briefly look. You're supposed to be looking straight ahead when you're driving. Because if you keep looking at the rear view mirror, you're bound to get into a crash. So it is what it is.
And after all these high tides, low tides, like in this state that you're in, of course, not fully comfortable, but when you look at what you're creating and cultivating now, do you feel like this is a place that gives you that energy?
Oh yeah, we're here. That's the first question that people ask us. Oh, you're a foreigner. You're in Taiwan. Oh, so how long are you here for? You leaving?
Right.
Right. That's what you always get. Oh, you're just here for, oh, you're doing your project. Okay, now you're gone, right? Like, no, we're here. We're going to be here.
So you're rooting.
Yeah, this is kind of like this is kind of like our hub, that if we have to go to different locations, we can fly, hop, and go to different. My daughters are in Los Angeles. They're in the gaming industry.
Video gaming?
Yeah, video gaming.
Wow.
So yeah, so my oldest, is Sony Santa God of War Ragnarok. My youngest is at Naughty Dog.
Wow.
So they're both doing their thing, but we're here because it's a different part of life. The great part is we have great kids. We were able to spend time with them. By the way, sacrifice is big. Like when we were growing up with our kids, we made the decision for one of us to be at home at all time. So sometimes it was me, sometimes it was Vicky. It's a tough decision to make.
Right.
But however, we were in their lives.
At different season points.
And what is the sacrifice? The sacrifice a lot of times is financial.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're branching, you're going one or the other. So we would do that type of stuff, but our kids are fantastic. Now we're in a separate part of our life. Our kids have graduated USC. They're doing very well. And we are now in Taiwan in our fourth or fifth chapter of life. But our kids are good. So now it's Vicky and me, and we've started this wonderful journey, another journey in the latter part. So we're always, I can't see myself not everyone says, oh, don't you want to retire? And I'm like, I don't think I could ever retire.
What does that even mean?
What does that even, but people are like, I'm 76, I'm just going to travel. I'm like, no, I think I want to, if I really like doing what I'm doing, I really would want to continue doing it until, the morbid, until you quote drop.
How important is that? That doing what you love doing, when you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. How important is that?
That's very important. I think when you stop doing something, it's the complacency thing. It's the my grandmother worked till she was 96, her sister 97, 98. So I mean, our family, they go literally until they, now you can reduce the amount of quote work. You can work smarter, not harder.
Naturally.
But you got to keep your brain active. You got to, if the goal is to help other people get to where they need to go, and you have all the experience, or if you've developed enough experience to help them get to where they go, why aren't you imparting that to the next generation? You're not, what are you leaving?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not, you're not leaving anything. If you're not helping, I would tell the kids, honestly, go to an old folks home. Just listen to their stories. They'll tell you about their successes. They'll tell you about their regrets. They'll tell you about everything. They want to talk.
They want to leave some legacy behind for us.
Well, they want to give some, their experience. I said, everybody has a different experience.
Right.
Everybody has a different experience. So even when people talk about, we always talk about the Gen X, Y, and all these different, people coming from
The
different
baby
perspectives.
boomers, yeah.
You could say left, right, middle, green, whatever political beliefs, whatever religious beliefs and everything. I always tell people are coming at this with different experiences, different perspectives. So my background is dad Cuban, mom Haitian, French, German. My mom was born in Milan while the U.S. was bombing Milan in World War II. So, so our background and what we see is a little bit different than others. But there's a respect when you start knowing other people's experiences. So if you go to these old folks' home and everyone's going to talk about their specific experience, you're going to learn history unfiltered through personal experiences. Because remember what we talked about when it comes to snippets and people doing stuff. Gen X,
the original clips,
the original
sitting
person
with your elders
is saying, yeah, I see that they wrote this on the internet, but that's not really what happened.
So nothing can replace the firsthand POV people, the people who were there.
Yeah, when I hear people talking about the Bay of Pigs, when I hear people talking about certain things in Vietnam War, when I hear people talking about certain things, I'm sitting there going, that's not
telephone games. Like a line of telephone game.
All I have to do is call a few people, and I'll know if that story is right, wrong, because of the people that are there.
Wow, that's interesting.
So it's different. It's different. So always verify. But old folks' homes, and I call them, they've learned, they've lived life. You might want to learn from them so you don't make the same mistake. History repeats itself. So it's one of those that you want to learn from them.
I have here the concept of creativity. I feel like you're a very creative person. How has creativity forged your path? Or has driven you?
So when we talk about creativity, my strength with creativity is more concepts. So I have concepts and ideas that I believe that will work on a global stage. I break down the acts. I know the storylines. I know what I'm seeing in my head from an imagery. So from a creativity perspective, my goal is I have the vision of what I would like to be seen. It's to get the people who would be able to creatively execute it and giving them the license as we discuss what needs to be done to execute, like the director. He's the one that would have to put whatever the concept idea is on screen.
Right.
So from paper. The writer might have dialogue that there's no way that I could have come up with that dialogue because they're adding texture to the concept, to the storyline for that. I can write a story, but I will always have somebody say, wait a minute, this can be said better. Most of the top scenes in movies, a lot of them have been basically improv'd. And I can go back to Jaws. You're going to need a bigger boat. That was improv. That was not in the script. Indiana Jones shooting the guy with the sword was not in the script. He was sick. He improv'd, shot. Any Robin Williams film. Love Robin. Was improv.
Right.
So a lot of the
unpredictability.
But
you feel like having that team, having a conceptual vision, having a creative team on the same page fosters an environment for those unpredictable,
correct,
improvisational, magic moments.
The key to everything is you can't do everything. You need people. At the end of the day, you need people. So Vicky and my vision, it's big. A lot of people will say, man, that's almost impossible. It's a very big vision. But it's the people that you put in place to implement and see the vision that you're going with. Can you help them? How can you help them thrive to be able to do what needs to be done? So when we did our pilot, you know, we had a line producer, a producer. Lemon was fantastic. Then we got a director, Jimmy Wu, and Jimmy Yang, the two Jimmys, our cinematographer and our director. Then we had Jin Young, a high boy. He's a rapper, great rapper and dancer in Taiwan. He helped with the choreography. Him and Milk helped with the choreography with the kids. I can't teach them how to dance, you know. So
right.
Jimmy, the director, teaches acting school.
Right.
So he actually volunteered to teach the kids out of his own time,
right.
8 to 10 weeks. Master classes literally in acting to 15 to 18-year-olds.
Wow.
Then all the crew that comes in, you know. So you have to basically allow them to be able to do what they need to do and go from there. Our job, the toughest part for us is always finding funding for the projects. Right. That's always. I mean, with funding, you can get anything done. And we have the teams to get stuff done, but we're always, you know, you go for the grants, you go for, you know, you talk to investors, potential investors, you give them your vision, you give them your passion, and
need people to place some bets out here.
Well, you try to hedge the bets, you
right.
know, so, you know, that's what we're trying to do. Taiwan's market is 24 million. So how do you get it to go outside? So, you know, those are things that we're trying to do, and we try to partner up with people, with music
right.
companies here and others. That
I think it's fertile though. It's you're here. Yeah. You're here at a very fertile stage. You know, you're here at the beginning of the ripple that's lagged, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
because you've seen what happened. Like you've seen what happened with Disney. You've seen what happened with Nickelodeon. You've seen where they went wrong. But we've also known how they've done well.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. What's your take on legacy? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
First legacy is through my kids.
Naturally.
At the end of the day, what does a parent want? A parent wants their kids to thrive and have a purpose-filled life and do stuff that they love to do. So when I'm looking at that, I'm looking at family. So family, friends. So anybody that I can help get to where they need to go and friendships to develop, it's the memories. Because, you know, 80 years from now, 90 years from now, what are people really going to remember? You know, it's only stuff that builds on the ripple. So if I'm able to have a student or a talent be very successful, but be righteous successful. When I say righteous, upstanding, not dealing with any scandals and being a positive influence for people. And then they get married and they have their kids and they teach their kids how to do that. Even though they may not have known me, there is still a ripple effect from
passing
having helped someone. Because ultimately, when I get up there, when I get up to heaven, you're going to see where you messed up, and you're going to see you're going to have to affected somebody that you never thought you would have affected in a right way.
Right.
You don't know how you impact other people. People have said smiles have stopped people from committing suicide.
I believe it. And when you speak of heaven too, and you talk about your faith in Jesus,
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that framework that the legacy of Jesus has left.
Look, I mean,
and how that influences.
Well, I mean, the bottom line, everything can be boiled down into the first two. You love God with all your heart, and you love people as yourself. So at the end of the day, it's loving people. At the end of the day, everything else, the do not murder, do not do it, all that is just semantics. If I treat somebody with respect, if I treat somebody with love, if I treat them, and then you have to learn how to treat yourself well. If I'm able to treat people with love, respect, and I'm there to help somebody, you're already following what is supposed to be followed. At the end of the day, you're being the example. And guess what? We mess up every single day. So nobody's perfect.
Do you pray, Manny?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You pray every day?
I wish I would do more.
Right.
But, of course, before I came on here, a little prayer to see how just to make sure that, the whatever message needs to be sent out gets sent out, that people enjoy the broadcast, and if there's an insight that I could have imparted. And there's a lot of people who are more theological than me. There's a lot of people who maybe have more experience in a bunch of different things than I do. But if something that I said maybe had people think a little bit, even from a movie perspective, jarring some of the old movies that people maybe want to see. I mean,
that's we can have an own episode just talking about movies.
I can talk about films and movies, and if we want to go into different genres, what's my favorite from the different genres, but that's secondary. The bottom line, if I could have a message, is you need people to be able to get to where you need to go. And understand it's by how can I help you before anything else.
Right.
And that's kind of like one of the main tenet that you're looking at. Everything else is all rules.
Right.
It's like, no, it's those two, because that takes care of itself.
100%. I'm into that.
Yeah. So
on a fun note, what's your top 5 favorite movies? You said Goodfellas.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Todd, that's
let's end it. Let's end it with a bang. We end it with a bang.
So many.
I know. We talking to the master historian.
Oh, it's a master historian. I mean, we're talking about personal favorites.
Top 5 movies.
Okay.
You said one of mine. Saving Private Ryan is in my top 5.
Good. Okay, so I'll start with genres. So how about that? So
top 5 genres, that's pretty broad.
No, so if I go Western.
Oh.
If I go Western, I love the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Ooh.
Outlaw Josie Wells. And
you're doing top 5 in a genre?
I'll tell you my 5 I'll do 5 in a Western. So I do like Westerns.
Turn my top total 5.
Okay. I'm sorry. We won't go there. But I can. There's so many good movies. That's the thing. Okay, so I'll just do the top.
Like when I say top 5, I mean it like what's the It's a hard question, but it's like it tells me about who you are.
Okay, so for the historical,
like what do you want to put on record as your top 5? Like that's Manny's top 5 right there. Top 5 picks.
Okay.
Movies.
Top 5 movies. Okay, just because I saw the original, I absolutely have to put the original. Well, everyone would say Star Wars, but I think Empire Strikes Back is better than Star Wars.
All right, so Empire Strikes Back.
So I like
on the table.
I like Empire Strikes Back.
I'm trying to get my weekend watch list up.
Oh,
right, so Empire Strikes Back is on the table. Boom.
Wow.
Goodfellas is there?
I really like Goodfellas.
Goodfellas on the table. Let's put Goodfellas on the table.
Goodfellas on the table.
All right, 3 more.
When it comes to a good, I really like the good, the bad, and the ugly. I really like that one.
Let's put that on the table.
It was between that one and Silverado.
Let's put that on the table.
I really like that one.
2 more.
For the historical film, one of my favorite historical films is The Last Emperor.
Nice.
With John Lone. I mean, I love that film.
Nice.
Bertolucci's film.
I bet. One more to go.
The Last Emperor.
That's fire.
And you know what? I love. I might be sappy. I can say so many movies. I do love a good action film. It's a Bruce Willis film. I can watch it all the time. I do like the original Die Hard.
Boom, there it is. That's Manny's top 5.
For now, I mean, I have many more that I can say. I mean, I can go per genre, but just ones that I can sit there and sit down and say, I can see this again.
It says a lot about you.
Yeah.
You're definitely a classic macho man.
Yeah.
Manny the Man, classic. That's a fire top 5 though.
Yeah. There's so many.
I know.
You got me now. I got so
Look,
many rushing in my head.
That's what I
so
gotta
many
leave
in my head.
That's what I gotta leave you
But
for
those
next
are
time.
some good ones. Those are some good ones for people to look at.
100%. And a little question I always ask before we close out: YOLO or YALA? You always live again, or you only live once?
Oh wow, that is.
It's a fun one.
YOLA.
Right? YOLO or YALA? YOLO.
YALA.
Did you just
I
you
did
combined it?
You only live again. No, because I don't believe we stop here. This is a small portion of time. So you can't technically say you only live once, but I think it's continuous. So I would say you keep on living. So is there a YOLC? You always live.
Oh, you keep on.
YOLC. YALC. You always live.
You always keep living.
YAK.
Yakel.
Yakel.
You always keep living.
You always keep living.
That's fire. That's fire.
I believe that.
Nice. So for anybody watching who wants to like keep in touch with what you're doing, Rising Storm.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
Rising Storm Global Entertainment.
Rising Storm Global Entertainment, RSGE. Rising Storm Global Entertainment. I feel like people got to remember that because they're gonna be seeing that logo on the silver screen on the TVs very soon because you're building up something fire.
Yeah.
And they can hit that into Google and they find all that.
Yeah, you can, and then my name is of course Manny Granado, Manuel Granado.
Right.
We're on LinkedIn as well. You can see Vicky using Chang as her last name,
right.
so Vicky Chang.
So you have some concepts on deck, right? So any funders or investors who are looking to invest, you have some pitches ready to go.
We got some concepts. We have some scripts that have already been written. We have the writers on deck to be able to write some of those other concepts.
Any little teaser you can give me? Any little?
Well, we have a script that's been written called Full Circle. And that one's just it's an action flick. It's almost like Hackers, the old school movie Hackers meets The Net.
Right.
We do have an actress attached who's interested.
Fire.
But
all right, we'll keep in touch on that. Stay on top of that.
And there's others. So we have a bunch of high school projects. Right. So if you think John Hughes types films,
Point Break, Elon. That's what we gotta. What we gotta do.
That's definitely that. That one's fantastic.
Pleasure to have you, Manny.
It's awesome to be here, man.
Yes, sir. Well of Wisdom, the historian. I think I'm gonna start calling you Blockbuster.
Yeah. Let's talk about films.
You're the walking Blockbuster.
We can talk about films all over the place.
What y'all know about Blockbuster?
They don't know about Blockbuster, and they don't remember when Netflix was
DVD sends.
The DVD sends where you had to mail them and stuff like that. So
that's lit.
They don't remember that.
My pleasure, brother. All right, we'll catch you guys next time, man. Once again, subscribe it up. Beyond the Hustle, Madam Vision. Talk to y'all soon. Take care, y'all.
Yeah. Is that okay? All right.